Welcome back to our weekly interview here on Veil of Sound, this time with none other than Dr. Space. No, we're not talking about Spock, we're not talking about Captain Kirk or Princess Leia, we're talking about Scott Heller, the man also known as Dr. Space, one of the masterminds behind Øresund Sound Collective. Scott, pleased to have you on the show.
It's an honor to be invited to talk to you for an hour or so. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Scott, before we start, where do we catch you right now? What are you doing at the moment? Today and also at the moment musically. What can we expect?
Well, today I'm actually been burning a lot of DVDs because I found an old box of Øresund Space Collective DVDs that we made back in the old 2008, 2009 period.
Okay.
This box has been hidden, but it turned out that I only had the boxes and no burned CDs.
So you got the package, but not the content.
But now I've been ripping the old DVDs, and all but one of them has worked fine, and I'm making some more copies. These were limited to only 30 copies, and I think only about 10 or maybe 15 copies actually got out to the world. But now for the next Bandcamp Friday, I'll be able to get some of this stuff. And my wife and I were watching some of it last night, and it was just a blast to the past to see some of these footage from 2007 and 2000. Actually, all of these were from 2007.
I can imagine. So people, next week Friday, it's Bandcamp Friday. Watch out for those very limited items. And what are you doing at the moment musically with Øresund or also with your own stuff?
Well, right now, I mean, I'm sitting here in what is my home studio at the moment here in central Portugal, but my real studio is being built just right next to my house. And we're like maybe about 3 weeks from being absolutely completely finished with a professional music studio. So that has been a real big dream of mine, and we're almost there. I mean, we're almost getting there. But musically, I haven't. Doctors of Space, which is a duo I have with Martin Weaver. He used to play guitar in Wicked Lady and the prog band Dark in the late 60s and early 70s. And we have this project called Doctors of Space, and we meet once a month. So we had our jam session last week, and so this week I've been mixing our studio session from that, and I've been trying to do some promotion on the latest releases, which Cosmic Cassiopeia is a new CD that's just come out with my friend Daniel Lars, who's a guitar player from Boulder, Colorado, and he's actually arriving here in Portugal on Friday for 5 weeks. And my new solo album is released on March 30th.
Shortly before Bandcamp Friday.
Yeah, Music to Lose Your Mind in. And then there's the Dr. Space Alien Planet Trip Volume 6, which was supposed to come out in January, but got lost at the factory and finally arrived a week ago or so. And then there's the new Øresund Space Collective CD, which is arriving either tomorrow or Friday. So there's all of a sudden there's four releases in 1 month.
So the latest Øresund, is that still Zion is Flying?
It is still Zion is Flying, but the new one is due out on March 30th. And
so there's already another one.
Yeah, there's already another one, which is called Oily Echoes of the Soul. And this is a double CD, you get about 150 minutes of music on 2 CDs. And this is archive material that we recorded in the second day of the studio in 2010 that I uncovered while we were in lockdown during COVID, when there was no concert playing, no visiting friends. I just went back to all the old hard drives and looked and see what I could find from our old studio sessions. And it turned out we had hardly released anything from the second day of the studio in 2010. And so I ended up mixing a complete double LP from that.
Okay. So that also already implies that at the moment you are doing a lot of digging and unchesting, so to speak. When can we expect completely newly fresh Øresund stuff?
I think possibly by the end of the year, because my studio next to my house is going to be finished
Cool.
in about 3 weeks, I think, at the most.
Yeah. Okay.
The thing that's holding us back maybe is getting the final floor in the live room where bands can play.
Yeah.
But I'm already invited a bunch of the Øresund guys down here, but we just haven't sorted out a date. So there will be new material recorded this year.
Cool. Awesome. Although we also have to agree and have to say that yours is one of the most productive bands that I know. A little Zappa-esque, nearly, which I love. I love a thing that sometimes there is this like, we play improvisational music or improvised music. That's what we record. That's what we do. If you don't like it, there's the door. That's a very, very cool thing to do, especially in a time and age where a lot of people are, overthinking a lot of things sometimes. On your Bandcamp's site, on Øresund's Bandcamp site, it says totally improvised space rock music.
Yes.
I have a question. It sounds, the description sounds very narrow. But on the other hand, it's like such a broad scope of music. However, this description, to me, it sounds a little bit like a limitation. Because I think there is more in your music than only space rock. Where do all the influences come from?
Well, absolutely. I mean, if you go back and listen to one of our records like Different Creatures, there's kind of country-ish, laid-back sitar, like Jerry Garcia type stuff. There's really hard-rocking stuff. There's stuff with very violin-dominated tracks. There's tracks that are kind of almost all electronic. So, I mean, we don't have any sort of limits, really. But space rock, to me, just is defined as rock music with spacey sounds. And I think because my main contribution in the past has been to create an Øresund Space Collective. Mm-hmm. But, during COVID, I've played probably more synthesizer, and I've taught myself how to play a little bit of this Hammond organ over here. Mm-hmm. I got a Mellotron now. Mm-hmm. And so, I've probably improved about 1,000% in before I used to make only just sort of spacey sounds, but now I'm actually starting to really play keyboards. Okay. And this is something I actually didn't really expect to happen, but since I had all this time on my hand, I set up all these things and I just started really spending many more hours doing it. And so my abilities have improved immensely of what I could do in the comparatively in the past. But it's getting back to your question, though. I think with Øresund, we don't really put any kind of limits on what we're doing. And when we get into the studio or at a live concert, the only thing we really do is pick a key to play in. And then in the studio, when we have a bit more time, we might discuss, let's try something a little more jazzy or a little more funky or a little country, or let's try some sort of world beat rhythm or something like that. Mm-hmm. But that's about as far as the discussion goes. And then these amazing musicians just go boom and off we go. And also having KG Westman, who used to play with Sienna Root, joining us on so many of these sessions, playing just amazing sitar. Mm. Adds a really special element, and he's not just a guitar player who learned to play the sitar. He's actually now the reverse. He's actually a really, really well-renowned classical sitar player. Yeah.
I have a question, and you've already hinted at it. When you say that you don't discuss it a lot, that you just throw in a few ideas or throw around a few ideas, how is it, or is the kind of music possible without either of the following two elements? Musicians with a very, very deep understanding of music, and musicians with an incredible talent and feeling for reduction on the one side and exposure on the other. Would it work without either of those two?
I think it would work, but it would be a bit more noisy and a bit more crazy and a bit more chaotic. And I think part of the magic of the Øresund is that these guys are such good players, really high level musicians. I'm actually the only person in the group who's pretty much not a trained musician. And also I think the most important thing for the musicians in Øresund is to be able to listen.
Yeah.
This is, you know, to listen to the whole soundscape that everybody is creating and be able to instinctively just find your part in the music. Yeah. And these guys are just brilliant at that. Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that makes us special in a sense, that we can create at a quite high level, I think, by doing that, because everybody is really good at these two major skills.
There is one thing that you indirectly mentioned, but I think is very interesting. You said the key that you play in is very interesting, and also that feeling for the music. Would you agree that without that, it would turn into some kind of John Zorn-like free jazz chaos?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think if we all discussed that we wanted to go into sort of a chaotic realm and switch, then I think, I mean, I'm sure we would be capable of doing it. But I mean, I think the main reason why we talk about the key a little bit is because I can't tell what key they're playing in. And since in the old days, I only made kind of spacey sounds and stuff, but now that I'm contributing a bit more, it's actually important that I know what the key is, because the rest of these guys, they can hear if we're playing an A or if we're playing an F sharp or if we're playing in C. And for me, I'm starting to get a sense of it now, but I still really, they can just play something and say, oh yeah, everyone in the room just knows, oh yeah, that's D. But for me, I just like, what key was that? So that for the other people, it's probably not important to mention what key it is, because they'll just hear what key we're playing in. But for me, I can't do it. But I'm hoping to learn it in the future. We'll see if I get better at recognizing the keys. And
well, let's hope that you don't have to go through another lockdown to learn that.
Oh God, no.
I mean, can you imagine ever doing something with like a kind of music with rules or prearranged structures? Do you see that for yourself?
Absolutely, because I used to play with the Danish psychedelic stoner rock band Gas Giant in the early 2000s, and they were, you know, the German press called them the Grateful Dead of stoner rock, because our concerts were really jammed out, and even when we went on tour in Germany, we would play a different set every single night. We never played the same set. And Stefan, the guitar player, he's one of these guys who he plays by feeling, and he can't play this. He simply can't play the song the same way every night. You know, it depends on the way it sounds on stage. And so I was used to playing in band like that with the context, and also the band that I play with in Black Moon's in Norway right currently, called Black Moon Circle. We've made quite a lot of records and we have songs, but when it comes to the live concert, it's very, very much improvised. So there are parts where I in that band, I mean, there's choruses and stuff, but we pretty much jam out all the songs. When we were on tour in 2018, we would just choose, and we have an hour set opening for Øresund Space Collective. We would just choose 4 songs each night. We'd choose different songs each night, change the setup as well, but 4 songs, even if it's 6 minutes on the record, we would stretch it out to 10, 15 minutes at the concerts, depending on how we were feeling. So I also, but that's kind of the only band that I play in where we actually have songs, but improvisation is also extremely important in Black Moon Circle. I mean, that's where we get the thrill when we play live, is just seeing what we're going to do each night.
I have a question. I mean, like Dr. Space rock. How did this love for this kind of genre develop? I mean, why not something like prog rock or free jazz or completely improv without any kind of genre? Why space rock?
Well, I think for me, it was just a combination of, in the late 70s, I discovered Pink Floyd.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, if you would ask me who my favorite bands were in 1980, it would have been Pink Floyd and Motorhead, you know, which are quite, you know, and then
a little different from each other.
Yeah, a little bit different, but those were actually my two favorite bands.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got really into the new wave of British heavy metal, and then it wasn't really till the late 80s that I actually discovered Hawkwind,
mm-hmm.
which kind of put the elements of Pink Floyd and the heaviness of Motorhead together. And you know, they became one of my all-time favorite bands. I absolutely love Hawkwind, and so that inspired me a lot. And also, I had a good friend who I did a lot of tape trading with from New York, and he had not totally, but a very improvised space rock band called Alien Planetscapes mm-hmm. that was around in the New York City area from around 1980 until he died in 2006, I think, 2005 or 2006. And he was called Dr. Synth. and Doug Walker, he was just a huge inspiration on me, and he was also a big Hawkwind and Ozark Tentacles fan, and mm-hmm. so I think these kind of bands, Pink Floyd, Ozark Tentacles, Hawkwind, drew me into wanting to do something in the space rock genre.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Is it just my feeling, or is there also a strong influence of psychedelia or psychedelic music on space rock?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, and that can come from the psychedelic elements of the early Pink Floyd and the early Hawkwind music, which was quite psychedelic. So, and I like a lot of the modern day psychedelic rock bands too. I mean, that's mainly the kind of music I buy on vinyl these days is psychedelic rock. And mm-hmm. I don't really collect heavy metal stuff anymore. I mean, that was like my big period in the 80s, you know, and yeah. I still love all those bands that I from the 80s that I was in heavy metal, but I don't really buy heavy metal records anymore. I'm more focusing on the current psychedelic rock scene, which is what I really like a lot. But
okay, then of course I have to ask, what was your last big space rock or psychedelic rock discovery?
Oh boy, discovery. Oh jeez. I don't know.
Wouldn't we all love to have such a library as Scott?
Boy, that's a good question. New band, God. New discovery band that. Boy, I'm just kind of lost to try to figure out. I mean,
probably.
I mean, I was just listening to this kind of space rock band from Spain called "Hear the Captain Speak, the Captain is Dead."
I know that one. I've heard that one, yes, before.
Yeah, they just released a new single on the internet just today, in fact. Mm-hmm. So I was just listening to them, and we saw them play here at Sonic Blast Festival about 3 years ago in Spain, and I've been in touch with those guys about maybe doing some concerts together in the future. But I like that band. Their last record on the German label Tone Zone, and it was a great record.
Yeah, that's also generally, I think, a label that for you probably is like a go-to label, right? I mean, like Tone Zone is like a very, very interesting label, right?
A very interesting label. I've subscribed to the label, so I get most all of the releases, and yeah, it's a very good label. I was really happy that Dirk, he actually released the Alien Planet Trip Vault. This is number 6, but he released number 5 on his label, and I was very, very happy. And that had Suzuki Jinsu on guitar on one side, and then Pat Harrington, guitar player from the stoner rock band Geezer, playing guitar on the other side of the record. So
what I like when you talk about music, what I like is that it never seems to be limited. You know, it seems like you're one of those guys who listens to basically everything apart from, I guess you're not a big fan of techno, just like I'm not a big fan of techno, right?
I'm not a big fan of techno, and I'm not a big fan of like any kind of modern day music, really. Modern day country, modern day pop, rap. I can't connect with any of that kind of stuff, you know.
But is it the modern day thing, or is it the genre? I guess for me it would rather be the genre, right?
Yeah, it's more the genre too. We don't listen to that kind of different stuff. I mean, I was listening to the new Black Label Society record this morning on vinyl, and then what else did we listen to this morning?
Yeah, but that is already one step in the mainstream, right? One foot in the mainstream. I have a question. You've said that you would that you will also be recording Øresund Space Collective in your studio in Portugal. But a question, and it might be a little philosophical, but I have a question. Isn't a studio recording a little bit of a step back from the idea of space rock records being recorded live in front of an audience, where you also get the report from the audience?
Sure, but in a sense, though, I mean, all the Øresund Space Collective studio albums are all recorded live with no overdubs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
The only there's a few tiny exceptions where we had some problems with a synthesizer going out of tune or something like that, where we've made an overdub. But I think all but like 2 songs in the whole Øresund discography of studio albums is all live with no overdubs. Mm-hmm. We might remove something, but we don't add anything. Mm-hmm. But our approach to recording in the studio has been to play it as if it was a live concert, and if there was an audience there. In fact, we do it such that we actually set up a PA inside the studio. Mm-hmm. And so all the synthesizers, and when Jonathan's playing electric violin, that's all coming out of a PA. So nobody's wearing headphones. So it's very much like playing a live concert.
You are your own audience?
Yeah, we're sort of our own audience, you know, and usually there's some other musicians like that aren't playing. Usually there's about 8 of us in the studio, something like that, and only 6, 7 maybe play at the same time. So there's always a couple guys hanging around who are waiting to play at the next jam.
That's also very interesting. I mean, like for example, when one checks out your Discogs page here for the Øresund Sound Collective, I've never, ever seen a list of active band members as long as the one of Øresund. It seems as if there are like 30, 40 people still actively participating in Øresund. You've now said there are usually like 8, 9? I guess it depends for the recording, right?
Yeah, I mean, in a live concert, we will rarely ever be more than 7 on the stage, and I think in the studio we are usually also 6 or 7 in the room playing, but we have been as many as 8, I think, when Mathias Danielsen was playing pedal steel and KG was playing sitar and Moans would be playing the Hammond, and then you've got the drummer, the bass player, 2 guitar players, me on synthesizer. So we have had as many as 8 perhaps in the room, but
the whole collective is even bigger than 8, right?
Oh, the collective, I think the last time I counted, there was about, 62 people who have played in the Øresund Space Collective.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So it's quite a few people, and yeah, it's changing it's still changing. I mean, the last concert we played in Denmark at the Copenhagen Winter Jazz Festival on February 26th, just last month. Mm-hmm. We had a guitar player named Pierre who has played with the bass player Leary, and he'd never played with us before.
Is that also something that keeps Øresund interesting for you, like having new people come in?
Yeah, for sure. And I'm just so happy that some of the guys who played with us, the tour we did last October, we did a small tour where we played at the Hustesabbat Festival in Oslo, mm-hmm. and we played in Malmö, and we played in Helsingør in Denmark. And there was, every night the lineup was different. Okay. The gig in Malmö, we had Per Hallgren, who used to play in Sergeant Sunshine, and he plays in a death metal band. I think they're called Dead Ringer. And then he also has his own prog jazz band called Hofut. And he used to play with us a lot, not a lot, but quite a bit in 2008, 2009. And also the guitar player Tobias from the band Carpet Knights. he played a lot with us in 2007 to 2010, but the last 12 years or so, they played only a couple of times with us, but they came back and they played with us at this concert, and it was fantastic to play with these guys. And then we get up to Oslo, and Esk from the Norwegian band Kanan, he came and played bass with us at that concert. So we had some, and then when we got to Denmark, it was even different members. It was it was actually all Danish guys and no Swedish or Norwegian guys. So
apart from the American.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, it's also a positive thing for those guys to be in, or to play a gig with you guys, because I think it probably it helps, you know, to own and to refine one's skills playing in an improv band, right?
Yeah, I think for them, I think for people, they have a lot of freedom. You know, it's really, really fun. And they know that we're all really good players, and we're almost for sure going to play something good. You know, I mean, not every jam is always super inspired. I mean, that's the no. But the thing is with improvised music is that it's just open to anybody can interpret it any way they like. You know, we might have felt that this jam wasn't that good, but there might be one guy in the audience who thought that was the best piece of music the whole night. Yeah. And so I think that's a really positive thing, that there are people, that the people who come to our shows and listen to our music, they're really open to a lot of musical experience.
How must I imagine you being on stage behind the synths, or also you as a collective being on stage? You said you choose like a key, or you choose like an idea. Do you also choose or decide on a certain length for a jam?
Never.
Because I mean, like, I could imagine that there is like one member who says, oh, I still want to add something to this, although it's already 15, 16, 18 minutes long.
No, I think the only time that time is a limitation, when we think about time, is if we have a short set. Mm-hmm. If we have to play a festival like Hustasabbat, where we had strict 1 hour, then you have to be thinking about how long your jams might be. But most of the time we're just the headline act, and we can play for 2-3 hours, and
however long you want.
And so we don't, in those cases, we don't really think about the time. It's the jams sort of just kind of naturally come to an end. Or if I feel like we're starting to waver a bit too much and not go anywhere, I might signal to Tim, the drummer, or whoever's playing drums, hey, why don't we just bring this one down and bring it to an end? But
so you're also the guy who in some ways listens for the whole thing, and who says like, okay, now let's either bring this to an end or put it up a notch, right? Yeah,
absolutely. If I feel like we've come down and we played like a long spacey section for maybe too long, then it's like, hey, come on, let's give it some more energy. Mm-hmm. You know, or
would you then describe, or would you consider yourself as the band leader, so to speak?
Yeah, I mean, I think I am the band leader, and I think, and I kind of manage and run the whole project. But the band does sometimes play concerts without me. Mm. So in Denmark, sometimes they've been invited to play some concerts, and I haven't been able to make it. And then every year, Leary, who's playing bass with us, he and his drummer Martin, who's also played with us quite a lot in the last 5 years or so, they always go to Bornholm, which is a Danish island out in the Baltic Sea, and they almost every summer they play a gig in August under the name Øresund Space Collective, and I've never played any of those gigs. So I think the collective can exist without me as well.
Probably because it's defined as a collective, right? It's not a pre-notioned band or something.
No, I really
nobody
think
owns it.
No, I don't think so. I really feel like it's Øresund Space Collective. It is a collective of like-minded musicians who all have the same goal of just wanting to have fun and try to create the best music we can at the moment. Mm-hmm. So that, the live concerts, what I want to do is I want everybody to just be able to disappear into the music and have this experience where they're not thinking about anything else. and just at the end of the jam or the end of the night, they can just go, wow, that was just a great 2 or 3 hours. And I could forget about all the crazy shit that's going on in the world and have a nice journey with the Øresund Space Collective.
I have to ask for this space thing again, you know, where does this fascination with space come from for you?
Well, I mean, I've always had an interest in astronomy and astrophysics, and I think, you know, in the end I ended up studying biology and chemistry and getting a doctoral degree in endocrinology. But I think if I had been better at math, I might very well have pursued something like physics or astrophysics or astronomy, because I still to this day I find it extremely fascinating. But I mean, we haven't really used space continuously on like all of our artwork. I think we have really quite a catalog of really diverse artwork on our albums that aren't always related to space. And I think we've over the years tried to use the word space less in song titles, because in the early days I think we kind of used it a lot, but nowadays the titles are much more diverse. And
they are. I mean, like Zion is Flying, there is nothing. You know, first SUA station might be like, okay, it's some kind of dub stuff. You know, like,
yeah. But Zion is actually the name of my dog, the guy who's on the cover.
Yeah. No, I was just thinking, you know, like I was more thinking into like, just like you said, where your fascination for it comes from. So is it my correct thinking that there is also some kind of childhood or youth memories incorporated into sometimes the sounds of the band, or also your own fascination for space? So is that like something that goes back to your childhood?
I don't really think so much. I mean, my childhood was really good growing up in Southern California, and I was surrounded by all these kids who were really into rock music as well. So that really, and then my life was really dominated by also all the sports I was playing, baseball and tennis and frisbee and skateboarding and all this stuff. So I don't think I was more preoccupied with rock and roll and skateboarding and playing tennis, and not so much thinking about science and space back in those days.
What I like about the idea of space incorporated somewhere in the foundations of Øresund is that, you know, we have never touched the barriers of space, you know, and we probably never will, at least not in my lifetime.
Well,
so it seems, and I think there is something that is also there in your music, because your music, it seems to be meandering, it seems to expand, just like the universe, or just like our notion of the universe, right?
Well, I mean, the universe is continuously expanding, and this new space telescope that they've just put up there is going to allow us to see the furthest we've ever seen into the past, which is going to be quite exciting to see what they find. But as far as the music goes, I mean, our music is, because we have so many long tracks, it's meant to sort of be really listened to and disappear into it. And I think because there's often a lot of different players, there's always at least 2 guitars and maybe a sitar or a violin and 2 synthesizer layers. There's every time you hear it, you might actually hear it in a different way.
Definitely.
And you might hear stuff that you didn't hear it the first time.
Yeah. Totally.
And, you know, so I think and also I think one thing people might not realize is just how many hours we actually put into mixing our records.
Okay. Describe it, please. Because not all our listeners can imagine or can.
No, but I mean, because having a really, really great sound is really important. I mean, I think virtually, you know, Zion is Flying was just 2 microphones in the rehearsal room, but, you know, our real studio albums recorded at the Black Tornado studio in Copenhagen, we spent an enormous amount of time mixing these. I mean, the recording in the studio is only 3 days, but we can take 3 or 4 months just sending versions back and forth to the different band members that want to hear it and want to contribute comments to really try to get the best sounding record we can from those sessions. So I mean, it can take really a long period of time to get the mixes right. And I mean, on the live concerts that we release on our Bandcamp subscriber series of live CDs and all the material that goes up on the archive.org, because every concert we record, we put up the audience recordings go up for free on the archive.org. So you can always listen to every concert. We always record all of them. And there's a decent number of soundboard recordings up there as well. Those I don't put as many hours because I can't spend months mixing those. But the albums really put quite a lot of time into it.
And then when you get feedback from one of the band members, then he gives you specific minute and section data. Okay, here at that point, I think like, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think the guitar should be a bit louder in this section, or I think the snare drum, I think you can try to give it a bit more depth or something. So we get a lot of really specific, and especially Hasse Horgamoy from Tangeledge he lives in the very north of Norway. The last 10 years that he's been, well, maybe not 10, 8 or 10 years that he's been involved in Øresund Space Collective, he has been giving me his ear a lot. And so he has been vital to the improvement of our recordings, because he also has an amazing sound system at his apartment that he hears details that normal people might not hear in the music. And so his activity has helped to improve pretty much all the recording I'm doing, because I use his ears for all my solo material too as well, and try to get his opinion. And so he's been extremely valuable. Thanks, Hasse.
One thing that comes to my mind when listening to you, I mean, like, I'm a straight edge guy. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do drugs, but I think Øresund is like the closest I can get to a trip.
Yeah.
Intentionally from your side? I mean, not that you want to be a drug, not that one, but do you want to take people on a ride where everything else outside the music is unimportant? Absolutely.
Absolutely. I think we try to create a really interesting soundscape where you can really disappear into the music. I mean, I think one of the records that does that the most, I think, is also one of the heavier in the end is Ode to a Black Hole.
Yeah.
Which is just one like 54-minute track.
Yeah, it is.
It goes from
it's one of those tracks where there is, I mean, like, we're all listeners of music, and we very often also look at the time, right? It's like, oh, that's already 8:57. Now, come on. But there is always that one point in a lot of Øresund records, which I have to say, I listen to it on CD. I listen to it on CD, because then it just, I don't have to get up and everything.
Yeah, that's
the flow is not interrupted. There is a point in every Øresund record that I listen to where my mind just goes, oh, forget about time. Time is not the remedy. Time is just an enemy.
Yeah, but then I think we've been successful.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, for a straight edger and like impatient guy like me to forget about time and just say, okay, mind go blank, just enjoy. That is definitely a huge success. Definitely.
Thank you. That means a lot to me.
I mean, being German, I have to ask that. What do you think of German krautrock bands like Kahn or Amundül? Are they an influence? Because I feel like there is some kind of similarities between your music and that krautrock stuff.
Well, I mean, for sure, some of the guys who've been playing with us the last years, like Hasse and Jonathan Siegel, who plays the violin and the guitar. I mean, his old band, Hieronymus Firebrain, they used to cover You Do Right by Can. And actually, I'd say in the last 10 years, I've really got into can now, and I actually really love. They're probably my favorite of all the krautrock bands. And of course, Tangerine Dream was a big inspiration for all the synthesizer type stuff. But it's only the last year that I've actually recorded anything I think that kind of resembles Tangerine Dream, because I didn't have the skills to do anything like that before. But yes, krautrock, I really like Amandul, and I like Can and Faust and
Neu.
And Neu, of course. No, I mean, Neu is a little more kind of simple and driving, and I don't think we.
Neu is not in your music. I wouldn't say that. But Neu is like, it's one of my go-to bands. Like,
yeah, I like them. I like them too. And we I think one time in the studio we did discuss trying to do something that was like really on a very Neu-like rhythm, but we never actually tried it. But I would like to try something like that with Øresund and see where we take it.
Mm-hmm. Do you like stuff like Mars Volta?
Absolutely. Great band. I saw them play live three times, I think, and I thought they were excellent band, and they also like to space out live.
That's why I thought so. Do you also enjoy their predecessors at the drive-in, because they are a lot more punkish and more hardcore like?
I have to say I don't own any of their records. I have quite a few of the Mars Volta CDs, but I don't own any of that. So I'm not really that familiar with the predecessor.
Yeah. I also guess that, like, for you, I think Mars Volta is probably the go-to band, because the other one is just a lot punkier. It's like more Black Flagish in a way. But one thing that I would like to ask you, now that you are living in Portugal and the others are still spread all across the globe, how do you work? You said you all come together at a point in your studio?
We will. So it's just a matter of getting these guys to fly down from Norway or Sweden and Denmark, mm-hmm. and we'll all meet here. But I think I've been having a difficult time getting it arranged with the mail that I set. So what I think I'm going to do now is I'm just going to set a date. In late July or August or something like this, and mark out the studio for a whole week and just send an email out to all 60 guys in the collective, and let's see who shows, and see who shows up.
And then you have 50 people who want to go to Portugal because it's a nice holiday.
Yeah, then it will be a problem, because we can't house that many people. But if it's summertime, people can sleep out in tents on our land.
And what is your life in Portugal like now that you have already some way settled in there?
It's very, very different than when I was working as a research scientist. Now that I'm just retired, I mean, my life focuses on music and farming, I would say, and taking care of our land. We own it used to be an olive oil farm, basically. So we have 40 bunches of olive trees. So last year we had 275 kilos of olives that we harvested, and you take it to the local factory and they make oil, or then we can brine them. So there's olive trees.
How much oil do you get out of 270? What was it? Kilos?
275 kilos. We got 30 liters of oil.
I always think like I can never imagine, like having so many kilos. I mean, like, we're talking about a quarter ton basically,
Yeah, that was in my
and you get 30 liters out of it. It's like, okay.
Yeah. But, there's a big pit in the middle. So
yeah, it is. That's true.
But my wife and I harvested all those 275 kilos in 5 days ourselves.
But not by hand, right?
Yes, by hand.
But isn't it the way that you shake those trees until they...
Yeah, we shake some of them, but a lot of them are still staying on the tree. So you got to get up and pull them off by hand. So it's a lot of work. But I have a big organic garden. So from April until November, we're growing tomatoes and lettuce and cucumbers and broccoli and like 10 different varieties of chili and asparagus, and we grow a lot of our own food in the growth period here from April to November here in Portugal. So I combine taking care of the lands and farming and the olive harvest is usually late October, early November, and then music. So it's a nice balance.
Sounds a little bit like one of those self-sufficient hippie lifestyles.
Well, we're getting there. I mean, we don't buy a lot. We don't have to buy a lot of food in the summertime because we can eat so much from the garden, and we have 19 solar panels, so we generate almost all from about April until November. We generate 100% of our own electricity.
That's amazing.
And we have our own water well as well, so we get our water from the groundwater.
So, just a question: what took you to Portugal, apart from a nice weather?
Well, it's a nice climate, nice people. It's cheap to live here. The healthcare system is very good here. There's very low crime in Portugal, and it's just it's a good combination. You know, climate, good healthcare, much cheaper living, and a beautiful environment here. So yeah, we're quite happy here.
So do you still have time to keep up with the scene?
I think I keep up with the scene. I mean, I read the Obelisk. So JJ, he gives me a lot. He gives me a lot of things to listen to, seeing who's releasing stuff. And Facebook, I read Facebook and see what new bands are releasing albums. And Cosmic Artifacts, the German mail order based in Berlin. Well, they used to be in Berlin. Kai and his Buy Location Records. I buy, you know, maybe 3 or 4 times a year. I'll order a bunch of records from them, and so yeah, I feel like I still keep up on the scene, but I don't do as much reviewing for my writing about music.
That's what I wanted to ask. You know, because
writing about music,
the number of reviews on your blog has gone down.
Sure. I mean, I used to. When I was in Copenhagen, I used to get so much music in the mail. I used to probably write 300 reviews a year.
Yeah, something like that.
And now I think I'm down to, I only publish maybe 4 or 5 a month, something like that.
Yeah, last year it was something like 60, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, so it's gone down a lot, but that's partially because a combination of that, bands aren't sending me as many physical products as they used to, and I don't simply make as much time, but it doesn't mean I don't listen.
Because of the farming, right? Because I mean, like,
it takes more time, and I'm still a guy who likes to listen to CDs and vinyl records, and I don't listen to actually any streaming music. I mean, I have to download it, and I can put it on a memory stick, and our receiver, we can put a memory stick in there, we can play the music, but I don't stream music from the internet to hear it, because I actually don't like computers. I'm tired of computers, and I try not to spend too much time on the computer. But we listen to a lot of music. I mean, I would say we probably on average hear 6 hours of music every day in this house. I mean, the first thing I do when I get up in the morning, before I even start the tea, is I put on a record.
So now we come to our infamous quickfire round. 10 questions for you. Nearly always 2 alternatives for you to decide. And maybe give a short explanation of why. I hope that my questions didn't go into the wrong direction. Let's start with the first one. Star Trek or Star Wars?
Oh, Star Trek for sure.
I would have guessed so. Battlestar Galactica or Lost in Space?
Oh, I go for Lost in Space as well. Yeah. It's more my era.
Okay. Doctor Who or The Twilight Zone?
Oh, wow. That's a tough one. I mean, I loved The Twilight Zone as a kid, and I didn't watch Doctor Who until much later, but I liked them both, actually.
Yeah, but you have to decide on one.
Oh, boy. Oh, God, that's tough. Oh, I guess I still go with The Twilight Zone.
Marvel or DC?
God, I have no clue because I never read comics. So
cool. I would have thought you did. Fado or tango? I mean, like, you live in Portugal. I know what your answer should be.
Yeah, well, I don't know, and I don't know much tango music or fado music either.
Okay.
So
Whenever somebody looks at you, the question must come up: Gandalf or Saruman?
actually, nobody has said Saruman, so I've been called Gandalf, but
So?
I used to.
Gandalf?
Yes, Gandalf. Yeah.
White or red wine?
Oh, red wine for sure.
Port or sherry?
Oh, port. Yeah.
And the last two, which are not decisions, but choices of your own. I mean, you live in Portugal, and everybody is jealous, or many people are jealous of you living there. Favorite place to play music, like live, first of all?
I would say Loppen in Christiania in Copenhagen, Denmark is probably my favorite place to play.
And favorite place for a holiday?
Ooh, boy, favorite place for a holiday. Well, at the moment, I would say our favorite place to go for a holiday is to the coast of Portugal,
Okay.
to these little beach towns that they have on the coast. We've been doing that for the last 3 years, and that's really nice. We just leave the dogs behind and go to the coast and have a relaxing time, just my wife and I.
I can imagine. Scott, it was a very relaxing time for me. Thanks for spending this nearly 1 hour with us. We cannot wait for more Øresund Space Collective, Sound Collective.
No, Space Collective.
Yeah, yes, Space Collective. But the sound is just so vast. It's always amazing. I love that so much. Thanks for being on the show. Have a good day and enjoy, the oncoming summer in Portugal.
Thank you very much. Well, the new Øresund is March 30th, so it's only next week.
Bandcamp Friday next week, ladies and gentlemen. So you know what to do.
know it's not next Friday. I think it's the following Friday, right?
Yeah. But remember.
Yeah, okay.
Radio. So
thanks, Boston.
You're hearing this on Sunday, folks. Next week, Friday, Bandcamp Friday. You know what to do. Thanks, man.
Take care.